here with another episode of the Risk Control Show. This is actually an alert, and I think you guys might want to tune in on this one. We're going to talk a little bit about a couple of body cam footage releases today that have the country kind of on notice for potential protest and or riots, however you want to classify those. And so we're going to talk about that. We're going to give some tips for cities and also civilians, and make sure that you can stay safe during this. Today is Friday, January 27th, 2023, and we're just a little after 10 a.m. here, and we want to bring this to you. So, Matt, what are the two body cam footages that are going to be released today?
Okay. Well, the city and state of, city of San Francisco, state of California have agreed, or actually have been ordered by a
Right.
court to release the body cam footage in the incident around the attack on Paul Pelosi, the husband of the former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. That attack occurred in October. I think it's pretty notorious. Involved a male assailant with a hammer who
Mm-hmm.
attacked Mr. Pelosi late at night or early in the morning, as it were.
Right.
And so we have body cam footage of that. I thought the most interesting thing about that was that both the prosecution and the defense in the alleged assailant's case, which is Paul DePape, I believe. I hope I'm not saying his name wrong.
Yeah.
They actually joined in not wanting that video released. However, news organizations succeeded in having that released. So we're going to have some body cam footage. This body cam footage is coming from officers arriving on scene and does show a portion of the attack that occurred on Mr. Pelosi. And then the second one, and
Yeah,
in
the
many
Paul Pelosi
respects,
one is kind of, it's going to be interesting to see what's on it, but I
yes,
don't expect anything to cause, mass rioting
yeah,
or mass consternation,
agreed.
But I
It's
am
more the
curious
timing.
what's on that tape,
I'm
since
I'm
both
very
were like,
curious too.
let's not release it. Yeah. The second
Yeah,
one is definitely more
yeah,
extreme.
it's extreme, and I think the thing that scares me, Steve, is some of the comments I've seen around it from people who've actually viewed the video. But what we're talking about is the beating of Tyree Nichols
Yes.
in attempt to arrest him by five officers of the Memphis Police Department. And unfortunately, Mr. Nichols passed away about 3 days after the arrest happened on January 7th. So just a couple weeks ago or 3 weeks
Right.
ago. And Mr. Nichols passed away on January 10th as a result of the injuries he incurred during the arrest. So the body cam footage is set to be released by the city of Memphis sometime after 6 p.m. their time, 4 p.m. our time, later today. And given that it is another incident of police violence, or I should say, I don't want to put it that way because I don't want to classify
Yeah, well,
I
again,
don't I don't want to classify anybody as bad until we see the footage, but it's a incident involving police attempting to arrest somebody and that person passing away because of
yeah.
the actions of the police.
Yeah, definitely. And our hearts and prayers go out to the family of Tyree Nichols. I was just listening to his mother, and wow, what a very strong lady. Um, in the middle of all this, calling for peace, she had a very good message to everybody. And I just don't know that if my daughter was taken from me in such a potentially routine manner that I would be as calm. Um,
Right.
that being said, I don't advocate violence in any of these types of situations. So that's what we wanted to alert you of today, is that we have some really controversial body cam footage coming out, and again, based on what we've seen in the past, we wanted to offer some safety and risk tips for not only cities but also civilians. And I think a lot of times we get caught up in things that we shouldn't. And this is one of those cases where this could easily erupt. I know cities are on full alert. I believe Memphis has asked for an emergency order in order to,
a declaration of emergency. Yeah, I believe that's going to be coming.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Atlanta's been under attack here recently.
Yeah, they had their own incident where an activist was shot, and I believe that Governor Kemp has actually already authorized a state of emergency in Georgia.
Yeah, and we kind of, I get the outrage in the Atlanta issue. You have to say part of his appeal was the environmentalist side of things, and now we're burning buildings and doing all of this kind of stuff, and that's not very environmentally friendly.
It is not.
I think we all need to keep in mind the people that really get hurt by these, and those are those small business owners, the individuals that have to live in those communities, all of us as taxpayers. Like, none of it's a good thing at all on any side of it, but not making the damage worse that we all have to incur. But I think there's arguments on all sides, but I want to go over just some tips for cities. We'll start with them because the list for civilians is very long. But if you are a city, a county, if you have contract with the sheriff, then it's important to start to activate all of your PD, calling them all in. Call in all your fire and all your EMT.
Yes.
Matt and I recently did gas mask testing, and it's funny because I tell you, it's like a premonition. Every time we say, hey, you need to have this ready to go, why, do this, do that, like, make sure, well, you haven't touched it in a year, you guys never use these. Well, here we are. Here we are, and there's a big potential, and this is a big city, and again, I'm glad that we did the fit testing. If you haven't been fit tested in a while, you better get it on, make sure it works, make sure your canisters are working. We've seen in the last couple big protest riots that lasers were used against officers to shine in the eyes. We've had many blog posts and videos on having the proper PPE with the tinted lenses to prevent the lasers from coming through. Again, serious injury can occur, especially when you get over that 5 millimeter wave length in the lasers. So make sure that you have that ready. The other thing is make sure your families are somewhere safe. Get your family members safe. You're not going to be home in order to protect them, so they should get out of those areas if they are in the big cities, which may be affected. The other thing is activate your EOC, get them on alert, have your press releases ready, make sure that you can run your EOC, know what your resources are, and have that ready to go. And a big one is activate your curfews. Most law-abiding citizens that are out for a protest and not a riot are going to follow your curfews. We all know when we're younger that curfews are meant to be broken, and all the bad stuff happens after curfew hours, So again, if you can activate the curfews, that'll get a lot of people out of those areas that don't really want to participate in a riot and find themselves in that kind of trouble. I think it's important to have very clear procedures for the police department, how you're going to handle things, where you're supposed to go, where you're supposed to line up. We talked about this last time, Matt, don't use the brand new cruiser as a barricade, because it is going to get firebombed potentially, and you're going to lose a brand new vehicle. So that's use the old ones that you want insurance to replace. That
you want to replace anyway. Right. Yeah. Exactly. But Steve, do you have any recommendations for how law enforcement agencies should interact with a protest? I think the thing that I think about when I think about this is is to separate in my mind those who are there to peacefully protest to make a point about something versus those who will take advantage of that to begin rioting. Yeah,
Yeah. Well,
that they're two very distinct different types of groups and
right.
different ways to approach those for police.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think EMT fire all the same. Like you have to use respect. You have to follow your verbal judo, right? And again, I think that's where the procedures come in. If you give an order and you have someone that is protesting, they usually are following the rules, right? They're not blocking traffic as they're not supposed to do. They're in the
Yeah.
designated areas. They're not throwing stuff. Those that are throwing things, those that are punching, displaying weapons, they all need to be dealt with very swiftly. And again, with respect, it should be handled professionally. Make the arrest, get them cleared and detained. And I think you would have your paddy wagons, so to speak, where those individuals would be placed. But, what you and I were just talking about this. There's no reason to leave someone on the side of the street to be a flag to those individuals that are out there. If someone is rioting, throwing fire bombs, shooting weapons, displaying knives, billy clubs, all those types of things, well, in that regard, they need to be dealt with swiftly. And again, with respect, make the arrest. There's no reason after you have detained the person that you need to continue to subdue. I mean, we learn this in martial arts all the time. Like, as soon as the threat is neutralized, walk away. Like, don't go and stomp the person one more time because you're angry. Neutralize the threat and move on. But do that with respect. And I think, my daughter and I got caught in that protest down in L.A. And
the Black Lives Matter from a couple
George
years ago,
Floyd
right?
protest, a long time ago.
Yeah.
It was one of many, but we were doing a project for our client, and we were trying to get some video footage. And I went downtown to get video footage. And again, like, this is going to be part of the tips for the civilians. Know what's going on. Like, this alert right here that we're doing today is very important for everyone. If you don't listen to the news, you may miss things like that. And that's kind of what happened to me. It was like a Saturday, didn't have anything to do at home. I'm like, this is a good day to go downtown and get some video footage for our client. I went down there, and there's a whole protest line of police officers holding the line on the courthouse and everything else, police department. And I approached them and, hey, what's happening here today? And I had a very friendly and respectful conversation. And so again, I think there's many police officers that don't approve of the types of behaviors that some of their fellow officers engage in, and that's you'll find those folks there too. But understand they have a job to do, and whether or not they agree or disagree with you, they still have to enforce the laws. And that's the point that we kind of forget. All right, let's move on here, Matt. Some tips for civilians.
Okay.
I think it's important to understand the VIP, right? What is a VIP to you? A very important person. Who are you going to protect? And so many times when we're out there, things escalate, and we get to the point where, hey, we're going to protect this person next to us. And a very important person is someone that you would die for. Just keep that in mind. Would you die for that person that you don't even know that's at this protest starting crap and you're getting mixed up in it? Like, walk away from that. Understand who your VIP is. That's your immediate family, maybe a very close friend. But would you put yourself in harm's way for that person? And I think a lot of this, you can join the movement, but you don't have to join, the people that are going to bring lots of negative consequences to you. That being said, have have a lawyer on standby. If you don't have a lawyer, at least get a few names ready that you might want to call in the event that you are detained for whatever reason. I think it's also important to protect yourself while you're on the street. Make sure that you're aware of your surroundings, right? We talk about situational awareness, Matt. Just like me going down there, I wasn't situationally aware.
Right.
And it can happen to anybody, but protect yourself. Don't follow attackers. Like, this is very important. We saw this in St. Louis where the two individuals ran out onto their lawn and flashed firearms against attackers. Well, just like we just talked about, once the threat is neutralized, you don't follow people, right? So if an attacker comes up, attacks you, and starts to run away, I know it's enticing to get revenge and to do damage, but don't do it, because now you become the assailant, right? So
right.
Another one, like the kids, right, Matt? We want to keep our kids inside, keep them safe. Don't be dragging your young children to protest and riots. That's another person that you have to make an evacuation plan for and escape, right? And
right.
Matt, you love your car, so what would you do with your car?
Well, just like that shiny new cruiser for the police, I'm certainly not going to use it as a roadblock or anything like that.
Right. Get them inside.
Get him inside. Put him in a garage if you have that option. I know some people don't. My garage is like a storage center for
right.
So my car sits outside. So that's one of those where I think you just want to secure it at the very least. Make sure it's locked, that you don't have any valuables inside.
Right.
That would be absolutely critical. But obviously, take whatever steps you can to kind of harden your area. If you actually live in and near the area, you want to harden that area by closing gates. If you have a gate or a fence, make sure it's gated and locked. Even if you don't have a dog, print up a beware dog sign. And put that out there. Right. Put out a surveillance camera signage, which I'm not sure that'll stop a rider that much. However, at least it always gives somebody pause when they see something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it reduces the crimes of opportunity, that's for sure. Same thing with your businesses, right? If you're a small business owner, because so many times these are the ones that are hurt the most, is board up your business, get your employees home, stay safe. So many times, yes, we have a right to defend our business with guns and all that kind of stuff. But that being said, like, is it worth it? Absolutely not. Even if you are successful in defending, now you have the whole legal process that you have to go through. And again, I am mixed on this. I don't like people busting into businesses and breaking stuff and stealing stuff and looting.
Yeah,
and all
me
that.
neither.
But at the same time, is it worth your life? No. And that's where you have to be prepared with the insurance and make sure that you have insurance for these types of events. A lot of times policies preclude that, the riots and civil unrest and things. Get your supplies right now. Like, now's the time to get to the grocery store so that you don't have to go into the city, that you don't have to take the bus, that you don't have to get on the metro line, or whatever it may be. You don't want to be out there doing those things. Let's look at this next set of tips I have here, Matt. I'm actually going to take that one off the screen because it's right in your face.
Hey, some people might say that's an improvement, okay?
You got a face for radio. Evac plans. Do we talk about these a lot?
Oh, yes. All the time.
Right? So you think they should have an evacuation plan?
Yes, absolutely. And look, I'm not saying you should have an evac plan for your home, like posted on the wall like you're required, but you should always have an idea, even in your home, where you're going to go in any particular situation. For instance, if you have a riot, you know where that riot's likely to come at you, right? Like, it's probably going to come in through the front door. So do you have an egress option behind? Are you able to get out of your house if you can't go out the front door.
Right.
Be aware of that. But obviously, in a more general sense, Steve, I think you were talking about like as a business.
Well,
Are you
as a business, as a person that's at the protest, like how do you get out of that city center? What streets are you going to take? Like, don't be
right?
the person that shows up and has no idea what street you're on, where those streets lead. How you're going to get to your car. Like, I highly suggest if you are going to participate in a protest, you know the area, you know what's around. Don't park your car anywhere nearby. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, uh, not even 2 or 3 blocks from it. I'm talking a mile from it. The heat of it in a safer area.
Right.
And then what do you do with your family? Like, what if you are caught down there? How do you make sure that your family can evac? And if the city really goes up and you're in one of those areas, you may be trying to evacuate to a family member or friend in another state or another city completely. So
Yep.
we have to look at that. That means also have an emergency kit. And so many times
Mm-hmm.
we'll see that where people are out protesting, no band-aids, no water, no gauze, no bandanas, nothing. They get a bottle cut from a thrown bottle or a rock or whatever, and now they're trying to use some dirty piece of clothing and stuff like that. So have your
Right.
emergency kit, and that goes same thing with your medications. If you take medications and you are detained, it's good to have those nearby so that on your person, so that you can get those serious medications if you need them. All right. And then one
Yeah.
thing, I know we're at, people are going to be at odds with the police department, but they should follow the updates, right, Matt? I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. I mean, you have to know what's going on. Information is your friend. If you don't know what's going on, you can't properly prepare for any eventuality that could affect you. And I think that's another part of that, Steve, that I want to touch on is that a lot of times I think somebody will be watching this and maybe, oh, these guys are making a big deal. It's not going to be that big of a deal. And you know what? I hope you're right, that person who's saying that. I hope
Yes.
that it's not a big deal. But we're not in the business of preparing for not a big deal. We look at worst case scenarios or likely worst case scenarios, and you have to prepare for that eventuality. So, and I know from what I've seen about the reaction from the Memphis police chief, from the Memphis city council, others, the family has spoken out a little bit about the video that is going to be released, and every indication I've heard is that this is going to be a brutal and violent video, and it's
Yes.
going to incite rage. And look, you may
Well, the
live,
police chief just said that there is absolutely zero humanity
yeah,
in this video from
yeah,
these officers, and that I think that the the unit that they were on was called the Scorpion Unit. That
okay,
was out in this community trying to make things better. Again, like the names, the Scorpion Unit. Well, what do you the Sting?
yeah. Why are you calling it that?
Why is
Reminds me of, yeah, the LA,
Rampart?
yeah, well, that, yeah, oh, yeah, that's the original. I was more thinking about the recent reports of law enforcement gangs in, I believe, the LA County Sheriff's Department that
Mm-hmm.
was going a year or two ago. But yeah, Rampart's a good example.
Right.
It's, not sometimes the gangs unfortunately, sometimes the gang might have a badge.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. And
Yeah.
again, oh, this is a tough one. I mean, my heart goes out to the family. I know what the officers have to deal with as well, and it's just not easy on any side. But I don't condone the beatings. You and I had talked about this before, where hey,
Yeah.
once the threat is neutralized, like that's it, that's enough, and somebody has to have the presence of mind in order to say stop.
Yeah.
And we have to get this person
Yeah.
properly detained in a professional manner, and that's not always easy. But
Yeah.
That's the word on the street that I have heard about this is it is going to be brutal. We look at Atlanta, back to your point, like these things do happen. We've seen the protests and riots happen over and over again. We just saw some in Hong Kong. They're all over the place.
Yeah.
In some of these other countries that, people are protesting and they're rioting and things do turn violent. It's a mob mentality. You can't break it necessarily very easily. You as a participant in the protest are not going to break the mob mentality. So you just have to remove yourself from it. And that's really the only thing that will help bring down the mob mentality. But once it starts, people get ramped up into it and away they go.
Yeah. They get very riled up. And I'll also say this too. If you think your town is too small to have a riot or a protest, then I want you to reverse that thinking. But I mean, look, when Black Lives, go ahead, Steve.
No, that happened to me. I was doing work in a small little city. I had parked outside the county courthouse, and in the middle of the day, with an officer involved shooting, the whole courthouse got surrounded, and my truck was right there in the middle of it, and I had to go get it and leave.
Right.
And it's like, oh my goodness. So yeah, you don't know. It does happen, and again, I think, people are sick of this kind of stuff. And so let's get back to these tips, because people do need to get out and get to the grocery store, Matt, and stuff like that.
Of course,
so, avoid direct police contact, like as much as possible. Protest. Avoid harassing them. Avoid poking them. Don't poke the bear. Maintain your physical distance from other protesters. If they start to get questioned by the police or whatever, again, go back to that VIP mentality. If it's someone you just met, you may not want to attach yourself to them, and definitely don't run. It draws attention. It's like a bear finding, food source, right?
Right.
It's the lion on the running deer. It is. So when you run, you draw attention to yourself. Just walk away. Walk away and walk away. Protect your identity. I wouldn't necessarily give out all of the information about yourself, and that will get us into our third set of tips here. Let's go ahead and take a look at those, Matt. And that is protect your cell phone privacy too. We know that that's used a lot to be tracked where you are. So if you are a civilian, I kind of recommend just leave your cell phone at home, right? Don't break curfew, right? If you're a peaceful protester, you're going to be a prudent person and follow the rules and not break the curfew. Go home. That's, again, when kind of the bad stuff happens. If you are detained, just know that you need warrants in order to open up your cell phone, delete videos or footage, or even to take that video and footage. So don't give out your passwords. If you are going to carry your cell phone, make sure it's password protected. Have an ID handy in the event that you are detained, or worse, that you are injured and unable to speak or unconscious or whatever. At least somebody can identify you and get a hold of your family. Have some cash, and please do not carry weapons. That is going to bring heat on you immediately, and bring some medications. And we talked about that. So those are the tips that I have there. I'll pop them all up here again, Matt, and we can take a look at them. Oop, I missed the wrong one. Let's see. I put the wrong one.
Feel free to cover over my face again if you like.
Well,
it's all good.
We're all covered, man. I'm just trying to move this one here off to the right so they can see all three at once. So tips for civilians. There they are again. And again, like, this is really a tragedy. I don't even want to get too far into it. I want to see the footage. I'm sure people want to see the footage. I'm sure it's very violent. Matt and I have had many discussions over the years in regard to a lot of these things. I've had some events occur in my life medically, which has really brought a lot of light to what could happen to a person when they're out on the street.
Mhm.
And I just find that we all have to be acting with more compassion. We
Yes.
all have to be acting with more compassion, and it's tough to do. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
it's tough to do, but this kind of stuff I think has just got to stop. Um, and it starts with training of the police officers. It starts with respect. It starts with um, good common etiquette and professionalism
Yep.
and those kinds of things. So, but I don't know. I want to see this footage, and it's just
Yeah.
heartbreaking.
I do
It's
too.
heartbreaking.
Yeah, I do too. And yeah, it's just having that respect. It was something that I was saying off camera with Steve, is just talking about kind of the mentality of people, how it's changed over the years. There used to be an idea where you could have like a civil discourse,
Right.
and and you could, yeah, I guess it comes down to the whole agree to disagree, which is kind of like a passive aggressive thing nowadays, but it still was a better point than out and out violence. Where you could have a discussion about points, you could acknowledge what the other is saying
Right.
without agreeing.
Right.
You can take that in. You can have a rational discussion about the pros and cons of the situation, and hopefully, in the long run, you come to an understanding about how to fix something. But the thing is that this is one of those things where everybody is very polarized, very divergent. Their experiences are different. A lot of people have had negative experiences with police. A lot of people are very supportive of law enforcement, which is completely understandable. And yeah, and everybody wants to see the right thing done, but nobody can agree on how that should be done. So I think I just want to say, hey, show respect out there. You can't put yourself in that other person's shoes. Show respect to the police. Show respect to your fellow protester. Show respect to anybody that you encounter in and around that, and just be civil. And as Steve said, compassionate.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I hope everyone stays safe today. Get your supplies, and please stay safe. Make sure you let your families know um, what's going on in our country today. And if you like this, don't forget to subscribe to our channels. We have lots of training out there, but more importantly, our my prayers and thoughts are going out to Mr. Nichols' family,
Mine
and
too.
I just can't imagine. And like I said, I'm just tired of this in our country. There's so many things that we seem to continue to struggle with: the homelessness, the
Mm-hmm.
economic situations, and we are a very big country with a lot of resources, and these things just seem like they maybe should not take place here in our country. So,
Agreed.
that being said,
Agreed.
stay safe. Uh, I hope this stays peaceful, and that Mr. Nichols' mother's wishes for the events that are coming up, are granted to her through the universe, through God, whatever you subscribe to.
Yeah.
But we'll see you on the next episode of the Risk Control Show.